Hi! Hi, my name is Aneta, the owner of Cross-Stitch Vienna, a Gothic cross-stitch pattern store. Welcome to the first Flosstube of 2026. Flosstube number... I'm going to say 15. It's 15, isn't it? It's right. I decided end of last year, beginning of this year, that Flosstube will be less frequent, but it still will take place. I was actually going to record an episode last week, or the week before, because I did want to release an episode in January, but then I got sick, and I'm still technically sick. But I thought, you know what, my voice is back. I'm a little bit congested still, but it doesn't stop me from talking, so I'm going to post a very short Flosstube episode to welcome you to 2026 Cross-Stitch Vienna Dark Folklore era. Yes, I have learned how to talk since December. As you know, the era of dark folklore, I cannot say this word, so live update. There's not much going on, I'm just working. I'm real life, I'm working, I'm learning a lot about copywriting, search engine optimization in this new era of technology. Also, how the search behavior changes on the internet, how people are surfacing information, these different interfaces that we are using right now. So this is what's occupying me. I'm still going back to basics and learning about proper project management of these large-scale website projects. So that's my day job. I work as a marketing professional. And for Cross-Stitch Vienna, I'm reading a lot about folklore. I've also started looking into doing certification, like folklore-related courses and different classes. Like I've just finished a course on Coursera about magic in Middle Ages. I'm reading Europe by Norman Davies. Europe by Norman Davies is my book nemesis. I've been wanting to read it for such a long time, and it's a huge book. If you've seen it, it's a brick. So I've been trying to read it, and it's just huge. So this year, one of my goals for 2026 is in fact to read Europe by Norman Davies and learn a little bit about pagan rituals and how folklore, if it was part of historical retelling from his perspective. He's a researcher that also a historian researcher that also wrote about Poland. He has a book about Polish history, which is also chunky, which I'm not complaining about because I do love a good research. Speaking of research, every single pattern that's being released now on Cross-Stitch Vienna that delves into folklore and the darker corners of it is extensively researched. I've been reading a lot of academic journals and finding old fairy tales on public domain websites and just leafing through them and picking up with different keywords to kind of like see how people are mentioning different aspects of folklore and then symbolism. And there are some themes that keep repeating, but there's also a lot of uncertainty. Many things are murky, many entities are blending, used interchangeable. You have to remember the history belongs to the literate. So if you were able to capture something, write it down, it was more likely to persist, to survive, versus folk tales that were passed on orally only, because then that relies on people cultivating a story a belief, and as it often is with retellings, they tend to change as they are told by different people. So it's very interesting to me researching now dark folklore. Other things I'm doing right now, going to the cinema a lot. In Austria, there's this amazing cinema subscription now called Non-Stop Cinema. Basically, you pay monthly, you get a card, and you can watch as many movies as you want at selected cinemas in Austria. Different cinemas subscribe to it, usually independent, so you're supporting independent cinemas as well. And yeah, we've been trying to go to the cinema a lot. I went to see Iron Lung by Markiplier. I loved it. So inspiring. You might have seen I have created an Iron Lung game fan art cross-stitch chart. That was around the time where Markiplier announced that he is going to turn the concept of the game into a movie. And I find Mark so inspiring because he is so creatively adventurous. And to me, Iron Lung is a symbol of how one person that's very passionate about creating, about doing things, about learning new things, is able to go and do something absolutely amazing. Iron Lung, for his first movie, beautiful. I was really in awe of editing. I love good editing. My editing skills were cultivated through watching different YouTubers, Markiplier, Don Plays, or That's Black, or Hand of Blood, and he has an amazing editing team. So that's really what inspires me. And Markiplier's editor, Lixian, one of his editors, I understand, is very talented. I really, really love his edit. So that's also how I learned to edit my videos. Basically, the timing, the sound, it's just so good. And a friend of my husband printed a popcorn bucket for me. Markiplier released blueprints for the 3D popcorn bucket designed by Regal Cinemas in America. So you can print a popcorn bucket yourself. I mean, I'm saying popcorn bucket, I don't plan to eat out of it. I plan to keep it in the background as a souvenir, and I'm just painting it right now. I've done the first layer of paint, and I need to figure out how to paint it further because I mean, yeah, the sky's the limit. Yeah. So today's Flosstube. I have 2 finishes. I have 3 finishes. 3 finishes to show you, 1 whip, and a note about a current sale, because there's a February sale going on. So let's start with finishes. I'm going to show you the first finish of this year. This is a design that is already available on the website in the store. Peace to the dead, health to the living. I perhaps have talked about it. I feel like I have mentioned this particular topic in a different video, but I really am fascinated by bizarre cemeteries, graveyards, or funeral practices. For example, professional mourning. That was something that I have written about on my website. The article needs to be republished because I need to update quite a lot of links. It's been a while. But one of the, as part of my weird fascination with the topic, I came across the London Necropolis Railway, which was a railway owned by London Necropolis Company. which was taking coffins from central London, Waterloo, to Brookwood, which was aiming to be the biggest cemetery in Europe, if not the world. And I came across the London Railway Company in a book about London cemeteries and graveyard, which I really recommend. I will put a image of the cover here. It's really interesting, especially the burial practices around the time where different epidemics, pandemics, outbreaks were happening. And there has been quite a few in London because of how popular it was with people. So back then, just there was no infrastructure to maintain the city in such way that it would be hygienic, healthy to live there. It was just extremely overcrowded, and cholera, Black Death. There was the flu, the Spanish flu, that also hit London, and it spread pretty rapidly because of how many people lived basically wall to wall in certain areas, and how the sewage system didn't work properly and whatnot. So yeah, it's really interesting, the topic of London necropolis and how they treated their dead, and what happened with the railway. And these words, peace to the dead, health to the living, in Latin, were part of the seal emblem of the London Necropolis Company, and I find them really, comforting, I suppose. I think it's a very beautiful saying. The Gothic font that you can see, so that was also developed by me. I'm learning how to create fonts for cross-stitch, especially with some ones with Gothic creepy flair. And this is like a mixture of several public domain and very, very old scans that I found on Public Domain Resources website. And the frame is the snake eating its tail symbol, which means cycle of life. Essentially, everything has its beginning and has its end, and there's just really no stopping that. You can stitch this. This design comes in one color only, so you can stitch it whichever color you want. I've done it in red because I had a lot of just no name cross-stitched embroidery threads that is just like lying around, so I wanted to use it up, and this was the perfect time for it. The frame was bought at Action in Vienna. It's a new discounter that opened not that long ago. I feel like I started seeing the logo maybe 2 years ago, maybe 1 year ago, I don't know. But it's essentially very similar to Teddy, so it's heavily discounted stuff. The quality corresponds to the price, but if you want to grab some frames or some deco articles that you can use for crafting, I mean, I suggest that. I don't suggest buying yarn or embroidery threads that they sell because it's polyester. I've looked at it just out of curiosity because I was browsing, looking for frames, and it's just not really nice to work with. Plus, if it's polyester, that's just plastic. This size, this format, rectangular frames was very difficult to find. I've been to Teddy, Seva, I've been to TK Maxx, also went to IKEA, Mumax, what's the other store? Lutz, I think, something like XXL Lutz or something like that. Just like I went to all of these different stores looking for a frame that would accommodate like sign looking finish, but Action was the only one that delivered, so they have extra points from me for that. This is on the website. You can download it. You can buy it, download it instantly, and stitch it. The second finish I have was not a chart I designed. It's a chart that Susie designed, my favorite Susie, and it's one of her Susie Q tattoos, and it is the Spiderella lipstick, which I had changed slightly because it's a beautiful design in gray and black, and there is a dash of red. It's super pretty, but I have so many different threads. So the reason I adapted this design is because I had so much metallic thread and beads and everything, and I just wanted to do something different with it. I do use a lot of gray in my own design, so I felt that if I have surplus of these different colors, I could be a bit more creative. So this is stitched on regular plain fabric. I just used 14 count waist canvas, and then just pulled the waist canvas out, and then glued the finish onto some felt fabric, secured it with a ribbon, and added some additional decorations. And now it's part of my beautiful bag, eye bag, that I got from Bags with Legs, which is a social entrepreneurship based here in Vienna. They hand make beautiful bags, and this one is my favorite. I have 3 different bags from them, and I will definitely recommend them if you're looking for socially responsible creative business in Vienna. You should check them out. The last finish I'm not going to show you now. I'm going to talk a little bit about my current WIP. The current WIP is my Rusalka pattern, and here I would like to tell you a little bit more about Rusalkas in general. Rusalki, plural, Rusalka, singular. Rusalka is a spirit, an entity from Slavic folklore tales, from Slavic mythology. I've done quite some research on rusalki because when I had an idea for this pattern, first of all, the idea came to me because rusalki are very frequently mentioned when it comes to Slavic folklore entities, especially in regions where there are deep forests and rural areas. And I have to admit that in my home village, rusalki were not as popular in tales that we've heard from different people as kind of similar aquatic entities. In our case, it was Topielica, which was mentioned when it came to the topic of water spirits, or vodnik. And rusalki, I personally thought that they were mostly part of Russian folklore. Based on the storybooks that I had at home, they were more frequently associated with Russian tales rather than Polish tales. Turns out, rusalki are a bit of a slippery topic and a slippery entity, and they are their origin is not clear cut. I mean, you will find that the origin of most of the different entities, demons, or monsters, cryptids in Slavic folklore. It always it really depends on the story, where the person that tells the story is from. And rusalki, the general image, I'll try to paint that based on the research that I have done. You know, I love good research. So let's start with who Rusalka is. Rusalka is a beautiful maiden with long, unruly hair. She usually is spotted in the forest, near ponds or rivers. She is associated with water. Some people say she's the wife of Vodnik, or a concubine of Vodnik. But there are also rusalki that are Forest Rusalki. So they live in the forest, not necessarily in water, but in the trees, birch trees, most commonly in Slavic folklore. And I found a very nice description of rusalki that kind of encompasses of what she is and isn't. It's from a book, Russian Folk Beliefs, by Linda Ivanits, which I also bought and I'm planning to read because it's very comprehensive. I love a comprehensive book. I love a book that covers as many aspects of a topic as possible. And in this book, Linda writes, peasants most frequently associated the rusalka with the waters, and here she was often imagined as the wife or concubine of the Vodianoi. Unlike the Vodianoi, she drowned people. In northern Great Russia, the image of the rusalka often merged with that of the Vodianika, a large-breasted naked woman sitting on the riverbank combing her loose dripping hair. As a forest spirit, the rusalka caused much the same damage as the leshy. She tickled people to death, caused cattle to stray, and stole children. So probably from this description you have surmised the following, that she is always a female, so it's a woman, and she's a trickster, similarly to leshy. Particularly known for tickling people to death. Apparently, if you come across a rusalka while she's out and about, frolicking in the forest or in the river, she will tickle you to death. But what is not said in this definition is that the rusalki had good sides as well. And it is very common in the stories of creatures in folklore that they are neither good nor bad. They just are, and it really depends how you approach them and what you want from them or not want from them. That they will treat you either with kindness or they will harm you. I find it very, very. I find it relatable, the story of Rusalka. Interesting topic, the name of Rusalka. I thought it was related to Russia. In Polish, Ruski means Russian, so I just assumed that's because she's from a Russian folklore, she's called Rusalka. Technically, her name only began appearing in the 18th century, so as an entity that existed for a long time, she only began being identified as Rusalka in the 18th century onwards. And apparently, the name of Rusalka is derived from the spring festival of roses, Rosalia, celebrated in ancient Rome, which was connected to the celebration of different goddesses and gods, but also honoring your dead and laying flowers, roses, on their graves. It was also time, because the Rosalia took place late May, June, July, it was a celebration of spring, the worship of harvest and celebrating or asking for good harvest and for spring vegetation to come in force and for the bounty to be plenty. And rusalki as entities were also celebrated in this time during Rosalia, the festival of roses. They were apparently encouraged or beckoned by farmers to come out of water, come out of the trees where they lived, and to walk through the fields, because wherever they stepped, the new vegetation would spring out because they brought moisture. So they brought fertility to the soil. Interesting that Rusalka is always moist. She is always wet. She's dripping with moisture. Her hair is dripping with moisture. She is not known to own many things, but one of the objects that she is known to possess is a comb that, when dragged through her hair, produces moisture. If her hair or her body dries out, Rusalka dies, essentially. So she is associated with fertility, with new life, with growth, spring, and she was known to bring new vegetation to the field, but also the forest. Wherever she stepped, new green grass would sprout. And she was the farmers, the peasants that knew of this particular function of Rusalka or her abilities. They would give her cloth or wreaths of flowers to get her to come out of water and step into the fields to make sure that their harvest would benefit from the force of life that she would be bringing to the fields. In Bulgarian folk stories, and if you are from Bulgaria and you can find a source for this particular claim, because I've read several different journals, I've looked at many resources in English primarily and in Polish, and the Polish resources mentioned that the Bulgarian rusalki had wings and lived on the edge of the world and brought moisture and fertility. So if you have any sources on this topic, I would love to read more about that. Other things to know about rusalki. Rusalki, as they are now, and this is stated by many researchers, many sources, many academic journals, is that as they're very murky when it comes to their origin. It seems that several different entities were eventually blended with rusalki. So sometimes there are some paintings that supposed to portray rusalki, but they are titled sirens or mermaids. Rusalki had legs, so they didn't have fish tails. They had fully functional legs, and they danced around the forest, and they would come out of the lakes or the trees where they lived. So they are not technically mermaids, even though in some cultures they are perceived as such. They were often called nymphs or nixies or German Lorelei or Wille, Nave, Navki. So there are different names that kind of mean rusalki, but not really. So the 18th century rusalka, where did she come from? Because they had to come from somewhere, right? What's their origin? So, according to the research that I have done, Rusalki were usually women that took their own life. If the woman drowned herself, she would become a water Rusalka. If she hung herself, she would become a forest Rusalka. It would have to be a maiden. In some stories, Rusalki were unmarried women. They were wild and unruly and seductive. So it was said that Rusalki were the embodiment of a free female energy. So the spirit, the maiden that never got married, she has long flowing hair. She walks around either naked or wearing a white dress. She's the personification of the liberty, a woman that explores her sexuality, that gives into her impulses. Some sources claim that Rusalki were spirits of unbaptized children, and praying could save their souls. But the origin story of them being drowned women is more common, really. Rusalki were tricksters. They like to be playful. They would trap men and kidnap them and drown them and take them as lovers. They were said to kidnap children and replace them with changelings. They were, in one resource, in one academic journal, it was said that Rusalki were particularly mischievous when it comes to women, and that came out of jealousy, because Rusalki were technically dead, so they were jealous of living women that could still give birth to children. That's why also Rusalki kidnapped children, because they wanted to have children but they couldn't since they were dead. Rusalki were apparently particularly dangerous during the Green Week, which was a spring festival, sometimes also called Rusalki Week. Green holidays celebrated in early June, and this particular festival was linked to the celebration or worship of spring and agricultural rituals. And in this week, Rusalki would be particularly annoyed or high-strung, and they would drown people that dared to step into the water. So people were told not to go into the forest, and not to interrupt if they spot Rusalki dancing and playing in the moonlight, and not interact with them, and especially stay away from the water so people do not drown. All the things that I've said, they were captured in the article about the Rusalki and their stories that I have published on my website. I plan to finish this stitch this month, in February. I'm taking my sweet time. I don't know why. With this particular cross stitch, it's taking me a while. I've done all the hard work, I mean, with the exception of the border. Once that's finished, and I'm only filling in the decorations of the flower and leaf ornaments and some small additions around the frames, but then I'll be done. And the last finish actually links to the stories of Rusalki, and it is, as you maybe notice, I mentioned that Rusalki were known to live in trees, Forest Rusalki, and these usually were birch trees. Birch trees are part of Slavic folklore and were often used in different rituals and traditions. as protective spells, but also as part of rituals that had to do with wishing for a husband or for getting married or finding the right person. So this very small birch tree cross-stitch will be published on the website this week. It will be published this week when I get my ducks in a row. It's very small. It's 5 colors, I think. Black, white, green, red. 4 colors, yeah. And I would say very enjoyable to stitch and very simple. And it's been stitched because birch trees play a very important role in Slavic stories. So that's going to be discussed more on my blog because I'm still writing the article, doing research, and I will publish that this week together with the design. I would like to let you know that there was a lot of new charts added to the website between the last Flosstube and now. And if you would love to get some from Cross-Stitch Vienna and also you would love a discount, then there is a February CRYPT Cross-Stitch Collective promotion. Cross-Stitch Vienna, Goth Stitch and Midnight Stitch are participating, and if you use the code CRYPTLOVE, all caps, you will get 30% discount at any of these stores. Cross-Stitch Vienna, Goth Stitch, Midnight Stitch, CRYPTLOVE, get 30% off. The offer is valid through the entire February. And the last thing I would like to tell you is it's actually a product review. It was a request from one of you. Hello, Irina. I got this Nurge embroidery stand, lap frame, scroll frame from my husband. And I've been testing it. I wanted to buy something. I wanted to get a frame that I could comfortably use while sitting on the sofa or at a table, that could be easily flipped so I could look at the back of the cross stitch, because I tuck my threads as I cross stitch. So I don't like, for example, the little frame that I have in the back, because it's very difficult to manipulate, to turn around. You have to lift it to be able to look at the back of the work, and if I'm trying to tuck a thread into an ongoing stitch, it's a little bit annoying. So for that reason, I was looking at different lap stands, and this wooden one from Nurge really caught my eye. And I stitched my piece to the dead, half to the living cross stitch on that frame. And now I have kitted it up for a second, much larger project. You can see here, this one is a large project that I'm going to work on this year, and plan to talk about it at some point next year, beginning of next year, maybe end of 2026, just to give you a sneaky peek into what I'm doing. But yeah, so I bought this frame. Well, my husband bought it for me, and I bought additional 40 centimeters and 60 centimeters extension rods. So the stand that I had to buy from Amazon, because I could not find the stand anywhere else that would easily ship to where I am in Austria. The stand comes with 30 centimeter long rods, and then you can extend them with additional 40 centimeters or 60 centimeter rods, which I did because the project I will be working on will be quite large. It's very comfortable to work with, and I think that the mobility of it, that I can easily flip the project, that I can comfortably work on it, on the project, while sitting at a couch or at a table, is what really speaks to me. Obviously, I'm not planning to take it with me outside of my flat, but if I wanted to, I could. I would just have to dismantle the stand and then put it together wherever I take it out. And it's really, really, really easy to do, because what holds the stand together, so technically this is the stand, these two side parts. This rod provides stability, and these two rods with ridges are used to keep your fabric taut, and they come with red clips. You cannot see them now because they are wrapped in fabric, but oh, here actually you can see some, like just parts of them. So they are pretty secure, and they are also very easy to take off. So if I were to dismantle this frame, I would just have to unscrew these two ridged rods, and then pull out the stability rod, put it into a suitcase, and then what I would have to do is basically put it together wherever I want. I have to say that I am very pleased with the purchase. The stand with the 30 centimeters rod was 43 euros. The first extension, 40 centimeters, was 16 euros with change, and then the 60 centimeter was 21 euros. Altogether, the frame with these two extensions was 81 euros. And this is, it's a wooden stand, which I really love. I don't like working with plastic stands or metal stands, which are very, very heavy. Are there any negatives? I cannot think of anything. Learning how to put the fabric on a scroll, especially if you have a lot of fabric. I had to fold the sides of this particular, for this project, because it really is very large. So the sides had to be folded, which would mean I'll have to be careful when stitching on the sides of the fabric, not in the middle, but to the side, so I don't stitch together the folded pieces of Aida. But other than that, I cannot really think of anything negative to say. The parcel from this seller took some time to arrive. I mean, I didn't really care that much because I was not in a hurry. I do like that the stand is made of wood. I had to clean it a little bit because I just de-dusted, because I think it was in the warehouse for quite some time. It arrived secured, and yeah, I am very pleased with it. It's very comfortable to work with. I will need to see how it works with working on this large project as I move through the design. This will be the first time where I will start stitching from the top, I usually start in the center, so that will be interesting. But I am very pleased with the purchase. I think it's worth it. And Nurge is a very good brand. The stand that you can see in the background, the wooden stand that now just exists to hold my my embroidery hoops is also Nurge is just, yeah, for larger project. It's just not really. I don't like to flip it around when I have a lot of color changes. So I hope this was a useful review to you, and if you have any specific questions or if you think I did not cover something, please let me know. I hope you like the new charts, and I hope you will read the story of Rusalka and also explore these resources that had been linked in the article, especially the academic resources. There is a very interesting paper on the meaning of Rusalka's hair and how it symbolizes freedom to explore yourself and your sexuality as a woman, and what it means to lose that hair, and all the rituals connected to cutting your hair when you get married and what it means. And it's essentially like it's really, really, really fascinating. It's a fascinating read, so I do recommend that you spend some time and browse through the related sources in that article. I'll also link to an episode, a podcast that I thought was probably the most interesting of all of the podcasts that I had listened to, because it was pretty well researched. I like good research, and it felt like the podcast host was reaching and to different sources and different researchers and folklorists about where Rusalka came from and what she did and whatnot. So I will link that in the article as well, if you like podcasts. This is it for my first Flosstube of 2026. I hope you liked this episode. If you have any questions, you can always write in the comments or send me a message through the contact form on my website. Yeah, I hope that you will have a good week ahead and lots of stitching time. Bye!